Welcome to the Path to Happiness, an introduction to the unification principle. I'm your host, Dr. Tyler Hendricks. In our last session, we covered the failure of the second national course to restore Canaan and prepared to start the third national course. This is getting long, right? Out in the wilderness, it seems a long way from the ideals of marriage and family. But our lives and the world around us are pretty much way out in the wilderness too. Through the course of Moses, we're seeing how God never gives up, but is always creating a foundation to receive the living Messiah. So we study Moses' course and Jesus' course, knowing that they are, in many ways, not so different from our own, and that God is with us as He was with them. After the failure of the spies in Canaan, Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. They finally returned to Kadesh Barnea. While they were drifting around, following God's direction, all the people over 20 died, and those under 20 grew up worshiping and dedicating themselves to the tabernacle, surviving through their faith and loyalty. Thereby they created the foundation of faith for the third attempt to restore Canaan. This started on the foundation of departing from Kadesh Barnea. If the people of Israel honored the tabernacle and followed Moses without complaint, the foundation of faith would have been completed, and the foundation of substance would have been fulfilled, centered on Moses, and they could have entered Canaan. In order to complete this course and indemnify the people's complaining, God had Moses strike the rock in front of everyone to bring forth water for them to drink. On the condition of drinking the water from the rock, they would have entered Canaan with the foundation of substance completed. But this time, the central person, Moses, made a mistake. Moses grew angry against the people who were complaining that there wasn't any water. He hit the rock twice instead of just hitting it once. Because he struck the rock twice instead of once, the providence was not established, and Moses had to stay behind in the wilderness with the promised land right in front of his eyes. Why was it such a sin to strike the rock twice? The rock is the root of the tablets of stone, on which was written the 10 Commandments, which represented Adam and Eve. Striking the rock one time symbolized turning the dead Adam into a living Adam, Jesus Christ. So Christ is called the rock of our salvation. Therefore, to strike the rock and produce water from it was to show that Jesus would return in the position of the reborn Adam and save humankind with the water of life. Striking the rock again symbolized striking Jesus. Because Moses did so in a rage of anger, Satan found a condition to strike Jesus when he came. After Moses struck the rock twice, God sent down fiery serpents to kill the unfaithful people of Israel. God told Jesus to make a bronze serpent and hold it, or God told Moses to make a bronze serpent, and he told him to hang it up on a pole and said that whoever looked upon the serpent on the pole would be saved. What was that? What did all that mean? The fiery serpents represented the serpent Satan, who made Eve fall. The bronze serpent on the pole represented Jesus Christ, who would come as the heavenly serpent. This foretold that if the people were unfaithful to Jesus, he would have to be put on the cross, and all who believed in him would be saved. Moses lived until the age of 120, and he died on Mount Nebo, from which he could view Canaan. Moses called Joshua to lead Israel after his death. And God blessed Joshua greatly. God told Joshua, "No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and of good courage. Be careful to obey all the laws my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or the left, that you may be successful wherever you go." Joshua brought 2 spies and dispatched them to the city of Jericho. A prostitute named Rahab put her life on the line and tricked her countrymen in the city in order to help the spies escape. Rahab appears on the family tree of David and Jesus. The 2 spies reported faithfully, and the Israelites who were born in the wilderness believed in this report. They said, "The Lord has surely given us the whole land. All the people are melting in fear because of us." With this, God could forgive the sins of the faithless spies 40 years before. Centered on Joshua, the people of Israel established the 3-day journey to the Jordan River. They followed the Ark of the Covenant, which split the Jordan River, just as Moses split the Red Sea. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation completed the crossing on dry ground. This was showing how good and evil would separate in front of Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, and how the saints who are forgiven will enter Canaan. After the people of Israel crossed the Jordan River, they had a representative of each of the 12 tribes place a rock from the riverbed, and they built an altar. This showed that the 12 disciples of Jesus would unite as one. They made camp and they conducted circumcisions. The people born in Egypt had all received circumcisions, but those who had been born in the wilderness had not. They were supposed to establish the history of separation from Satan before they entered the land of milk and honey, promised by God. Following the Passover, they attacked the walls of Jericho. 7 chief priests blew trumpets and marched before Jehovah, and the Ark of the Covenant followed them. Armed soldiers marched in front of the 7 chief priests, and the rear guard cohorts followed the Ark. For 6 days they circled the city once a day. On the 7th day, the 7 chief priests circled it 7 times, blowing the trumpets. And when Joshua shouted, "God gave you this city," and the people shouted also, the impregnable walls of Jericho collapsed. This showed that the wall of Satan between heaven and earth will crumble because of Jesus. After a while, Joshua defeated 19 kings in the battle of Beth Horon and 12 kings in the battle of Merom. This showed that Jesus, as the King of creation, would defeat the reign of evil and establish heaven on earth. The third national course to restore Canaan completed 430 years of slavery in Egypt, life in the wilderness under conditions of severe heat, thirst, hunger, and a harsh environment, and with Joshua as their new leader, leading them into the land promised by God, Canaan. After they entered Canaan, Joshua divided the land they conquered among the 12 tribes, and they settled in Canaan. Now, the national expectations were completed, centered on Joshua. However, the Messiah could not arrive before a kingdom on God's side was built, capable of fighting the kingdoms on Satan's side. As we shall see, even the Israelites born in the wilderness gradually turned faithless, and the providence was prolonged to Jesus. What are some lessons from the course of Moses? The first lesson is that God is the center of history, and God has an absolute purpose based upon which He leads humankind. Second, the journey of Moses shows us that depending on the fulfillment of the human portion of responsibility, the accomplishment of God's plan is decided. Third, God does not interfere with men and women's portion of responsibility. He deals with the results. Fourth, the greater a person's mission, the greater is the test for that person. So if any of you are having great hardships, temptations, or tests of your faith, the lesson here is, don't get angry, don't worry, be grateful. Moses gave so much, but his anger betrayed him. Despite his incredible sacrifice and beautiful relationship with God, but to his eternal credit, he raised up his successor, Joshua, and selflessly gave everything to him and accepted God's judgment. Like Moses, let us accept the vision that God has for us. In our next session, we will apply these same principles to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus and the founding of Christianity. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to sharing our next session with you.